there was a strong possibility that they wouldn't necessarily want to be engaging in any discussions with us.
When you mention, not engaging or not revealing the details of speaking with his representative, I'm curious, at any point did you speak with Mitch directly?
Yeah, I have conversations with our players, of course. I mean, the business part of it, that's why they hire agents. So, the agents handle all the business affairs, and that's not, that's the way it should be, right? That's why they have agents to handle that. The player's job is to play. But you always, with a player of Mitch's magnitude, and you have conversations, you certainly have conversations at certain points with the player, but the bulk of our communication is always through the player's representative.
So, Brad, you threw out a phrase at your season-ending press conference that stuck around, the DNA phrase, and you talked about the change needed in that department. How would you characterize your progress to date on that?
It's amazing that a line would stick around in our market. Jeepers.
It was a good one, though.
Better than snot.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Yeah. Well, again, when I talk about the DNA and I tried to reference it that day is, I know we all want to jump in and say, okay, we got to change 20 players. That's not it. It's a lot of this is mentality. Certainly, we're going to try to find ways to make our team better, and that sometimes does involve of changing of personnel. But it's also in those critical moments, right? You get to the end of the playoffs and we're all emotional, and you lose in Game 7 of round 2, and it feels like you've missed the playoffs for 5 straight years. And the focus when I looked at our group was just in those critical moments, finding a way to be better, to finding a way to be at our very best. And that's what I was focused around when I talk about that. So some of that's internally, some of that's, whether it be from between the years, and some of that's in terms of personnel. So that's when I talk about that, or when I made that statement, that's really what I was alluding to. And from, there's a lot of things we work on with our group over the course of the summer and in our communication with them. But as far as the personnel side, it's a work in progress right now. We've made, we were able to do, handle a couple of our files prior to today with John Tavares, Matthew Nyes, the acquisition of Michelli, and we'll continue to work at it. We continue to work as we said earlier, and as Noodles has mentioned. We've got some time here before we start the season. Today's a big day on the calendar, but we will continue to work at trying to find ways to improve our team.
With Brad Treliving, the GM of the Maple Leafs, we haven't heard from Austin Matthews, really since the end of the season. I wasn't anticipating hearing from him today, but I'm curious if you have any insight on how, he's taken the news that Mitch Marner's not going to be his teammate anymore.
I haven't talked to Austin today, and obviously they've got a close personal relationship. A lot of. And I don't think it would be unusual that you guys aren't speaking with him today. Obviously, he's not in town. But that's probably a question better suited for him. I know obviously they had a close relationship. But I also understand, what I found in this day and age too is players, they respect each other's personal business, right? They're a close unit as a team, but I think players around the league, everybody's got their own personal business to take care of. I think players are respectful of that. They don't want to infringe upon anything that's what I would deem personal business. But I also think that I don't think this is a shock to today. I don't think Austin was waking up shocked to the news of the move, but certainly that there were teammates for a long time, and they've got a close personal relationship. And I don't want to speak for Austin at all, but I'm sure as all of us are, you wish him the very best, but you also look forward to what's ahead for us.
Tree, you end up getting Nicholas, is it Waugh or Roy? Where are we going to go?
Waugh. Now he's even closer to Quebec.
Okay,
now,
so Nicholas
and he grew
Waugh,
up a Leaf fan. That's what he was saying today.
And Michelli, talk about the players that you have brought in here. Little different look. Michelli, I think, has some skill. He's not a big guy, but it looks. I saw him live a few times last year. I really liked him, and then Waugh has, best you use the word snot. He's a big guy who plays hard, and he can be versatile. Talk about the guys that you brought in here. Maybe a little different look.
Yeah, well, Nick is a real good player. He's sort of. I think there's even more opportunity for him here. That's a strong center group that they have in Vegas. Right shot center, long guy. Really has excelled in a defensive role in terms of matchups, playing against good players on the other team, penalty killing. But there's some, he's got good hands. There's some sneaky skill there. Highly competitive player. You look around, teams that win, you need that. We all talk. We all want to put everybody into a box of a first line player, second line player. I think there's a lot of talk about second line centers all over the league right now. But if you don't necessarily, and I'm not speaking just for our situation, but if you don't necessarily have the perfect 1, 2, 3, 4 down the middle. There's lots of teams that the league is all based on matchups, and I think Nick is a guy that can take heavy matchups. If you look at Winnipeg, for an example, we won the President's Trophy this year. Where Adam Lowry, I think everybody would consider as a third line center, he really plays in a heavy matchup role. So you've got Scheifele, then you've got Lowry taking heavy matchups. And then you've got Nemesnikov coming in sort of underneath. And, that's where I look at a player like Nick, who's able to, if you look at our situation right now with Austin and John, I think he's able to come in and play in a real matchup role. Our series with Florida, again, when you look at how things played out from a match standpoint, Bark